They said the war would never reach us. That the gods of Nippon would protect their children. Mothers whispered it to their sons as they went off to fight. Teachers wrote it on blackboards. Priests prayed for it in temples. But on the morning of August 6, 1945, the sky above Hiroshima betrayed them all. It began like any other summer day, warm, heavy, and unbearably still. The city stirred slowly awake. Vendors opened their stalls. Bicycles clattered down narrow streets. Children laughed as they walked to school, their voices bright against the hum of a distant world war. No one knew that, high above the clouds, a silver plane named Enola Gay was cutting through the sky, carrying a weapon that would end an era. At 8:15 a.m., a man looked up. He saw something shimmer, a tiny light against the blue, a falling object, small and silent. He had no time to wonder. The world exploded. The first thing was light. Brighter than the sun, hotter than anything born of this earth. It erased shadows, color, shape, everything. It wasn't light, it was obliteration. And then came the wind. It tore through the city like the breath of hell. Roofs vanished. Trees were ripped from their roots. Human bodies were thrown through the air like paper. Windows shattered miles away, and the heart of Hiroshima, once a peaceful city of students, workers, and families, became a storm of dust and fire. The people who survived the first flash didn't understand what had happened. They thought a bomb had fallen nearby. They didn't know the bomb had changed the world. In the ruins, silence reigned for a heartbeat, and then the screaming began. A mother stumbled through the rubble, calling her child's name. Her kimono was burning. Her skin peeled like paper. A soldier crawled out from the barracks, his uniform in tatters, his eyes gone white from the flash. Rivers boiled. Birds fell mid-flight. The city was no longer a city, it was a shadow of itself, melting in slow motion. Those who looked toward the sky saw nothing but black rain, thick, oily, falling in slow drops. They didn't know it carried death within it, radiation, a poison invisible and eternal. Hours later, survivors began to wander aimlessly, searching for family, for water, for answers. One boy, no older than 10, dragged his sister behind him. Her legs were burned to the bone. He kept whispering, "Hold on, we're going home," but home no longer existed. When night fell, the glow of the fires still lit the horizon. From miles away, Japanese officers in command posts watched the sky over Hiroshima and thought an ammunition depot had exploded. They didn't yet know an entire city had been erased by a single weapon. In Tokyo, the news came like a ghost. Reports spoke of total destruction. Of a new kind of bomb. Scientists and officers refused to believe it. How could one bomb do the work of thousands? But as the reports poured in, melted metal, shadows of people burned into walls, entire districts vanished, disbelief turned to dread. Japan had seen bombings before. Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka, all had burned. But this was different. This was not war. This was annihilation. 3 days later, as Japan reeled from the horror, another city, Nagasaki, awoke under the same blue sky. Children played near the river. Workers hurried to factories. No one knew that the second bomb was already on its way. When the second flash came, it was smaller, but no less merciless. In seconds, Nagasaki became a crater of flame. Those who had survived Hiroshima heard the news and wept, not for themselves, but for humanity. In Tokyo, the cabinet met in silence. The emperor himself broke tradition and spoke. The enemy has employed a new and most cruel bomb. If we continue to fight, our nation will be reduced to ashes. Japan, a nation that had vowed never to surrender, now stood on its knees. But for the people beneath the mushroom cloud, surrender meant nothing. They didn't care about politics or empires. They cared about the child they couldn't find, the family that vanished, the city that no longer existed. One woman, blinded by the flash, wandered the streets calling for her husband. She stumbled upon a reflection, a mirror melted into the wall. She didn't recognize the creature looking back at her. Doctors, those who survived, tried to help. But how do you treat wounds that won't stop burning? How do you heal a sickness you can't see? People began to die days later, their hair falling out, their bodies bleeding from within. They called it A-bomb sickness. The doctors called it radiation. And then came the shock, not just of what had happened, but of who had done it. America. A country that had once traded with Japan, sent missionaries, artists, and teachers. A country that now had unleashed the power of the sun itself. 4 years, the Japanese people had been told Americans were weak, indulgent, cowardly. But in one morning, that illusion shattered. The American bomb didn't just destroy Hiroshima, it destroyed the belief that Japan was invincible. Even the generals, hardened men who had sworn to die before surrender, sat in silence when they saw photographs of the aftermath. Entire neighborhoods reduced to ashes. Skinless bodies walking like ghosts. Rivers full of corpses. The shock was total, not only of the destruction, but of the speed. A single bomb. One plane. One moment, and an entire city gone. The Japanese scientists, upon examining the ruins, said it wasn't possible. It must have been dozens of bombs, they said. But when they found the shadows burned onto walls, human silhouettes etched in negative light, they realized the truth. It was not dozens. It was one. August 15, 1945. The emperor's voice crackled over the radio, the first time the Japanese people had ever heard him speak. His words were calm, but his tone carried centuries of sorrow. We must endure the unendurable. For the first time in its history, Japan surrendered. Across the nation, silence fell. In villages and cities, people bowed their heads. The war that had begun in pride ended in ash. In Hiroshima, survivors sat among ruins as American planes dropped leaflets announcing peace. The irony was unbearable. The same sky that had brought death now carried news of salvation. But peace did not bring comfort. Not yet. Children died for weeks, then months, from invisible wounds. Mothers gave birth to stillborn babies. The rivers carried whispers of pain. Hiroshima became a graveyard without tombstones, a city of shadows. Yet from that silence, something began to grow. The people who had lost everything began to rebuild. They planted flowers where ashes lay. They built homes again, brick by brick. And slowly, the city of death became a city of hope. Every year, on August 6, at 8:15 a.m., the people of Hiroshima bow their heads as a bell rings through the air, clear, pure, and endless. They remember the day when the sun fell from the sky. The world, too, was never the same. The atomic bomb had ended a war, but it had also opened the gates to a new kind of fear, the fear that humanity could destroy itself with a single act. Even the scientists who built it, in faraway Los Alamos, watched the news in silence. J. Robert Oppenheimer, one of the creators, whispered words from an ancient text. "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The Japanese survivors, the Hibakusha, carried those worlds within their scars. They traveled, spoke, warned the world of what they had seen. Many were ignored. Some were shunned. But they kept speaking. Because they had seen what it meant when man became God. And what did Japan feel? Shock, yes, but deeper than that, awakening. They realized that war was no longer a game of heroes and swords, of soldiers and honor. It was now a monster that could consume the world in a heartbeat. The people rebuilt not with anger, but with resolve, to ensure it would never happen again. From the ashes of Hiroshima rose a new Japan, one devoted not to conquest, but to peace. The bomb had burned everything, but it could not burn their humanity. And that, perhaps, was the greatest shock of all, that even in the face of total destruction, the human spirit refused to die. In the years that followed, survivors shared their memories. A teacher who lost all her students said, "The children called out for water. I could not give them any. I can never forget their voices." A soldier recalled walking through the ruins. "I saw a woman standing, holding a baby. I thought she was alive, until I realized both were dead, burned together in one embrace." A young boy, who would later become an artist, said, "I drew because I wanted the world to see what we saw. Because if they see it, they will never allow it again." The Japanese government would later send delegations to the world, not to demand revenge, but to speak of peace. The Hiroshima Peace Memorial stood as a scar, left unhealed, so that memory would never fade. For America, it was victory. For Japan, it was awakening. For the world, it was a warning. And somewhere, in the ruins of that day, among the ashes and the silence, one could almost hear the whisper of the wind. Never again. Years passed. The survivors aged. Their stories faded from textbooks, replaced by numbers, statistics, and arguments about whether the bomb was necessary. But to those who lived it, there was no debate. There was only memory. The memory of a light that turned day into eternity. The memory of a silence that followed screams. The memory of a city that vanished, and still somehow lived. Even now, decades later, when you walk through Hiroshima, you can feel it. The air hums differently there. The trees sway gently, as if remembering. The peace bell rings, and its echo travels across oceans, whispering to those who will listen. The world changed here. And so it did. The Japanese people were not just shocked by the bomb, they were transformed by it. Their shock became grief, their grief became reflection, and their reflection became resolve. A resolve to live, to rebuild, to forgive, and to remind humanity that the greatest power we possess is not to destroy, but to endure. Because on that morning in August 1945, when the sun fell from the sky and the world held its breath, humanity glimpsed its own reflection, terrible, brilliant, and unbearably fragile. And the people of Hiroshima, in their silent strength, taught the world the meaning of peace born from pain. The war ended. Empires crumbled. Nations rebuilt. But the memory, the shock, remained, carved into the soul of Japan forever. And as the years turned to decades, and the survivors turned to spirits, the story lived on, a story not of defeat, but of awakening. Because that day, when the bomb fell and the world changed, something else was born in the hearts of those who lived. A vow. A vow whispered by every survivor, every mother, every child who lived to see another sunrise. No more Hiroshimas. No more Nagasakis. No more war.